Okay, this is Oliver Art Center's 20 questions. My name is Mercedes Michalowski. I'm Executive Director, and we're going right into question number 1. Will you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Nick Walsh. I'm an artist and designer based in Traverse City. I like to paint with acrylics, and I do a lot of experimental stuff with design, photography, and video.
Awesome. So out of all of those, do you have a favorite medium?
Yeah, so my favorite medium I would have to say is acrylic painting. Very just loose and easy to manipulate. Just one of those easy mediums you could just kind of have fun with and just kind of do a lot with.
Okay, so when did your interest in art begin?
Okay, so this is an interesting one because I didn't, growing up, I was never into art. And then when I got into college, I took a history class, an art history class, and that really got me into like the mindset of like how artists view their stuff, their own pieces, and just like the mental aspect and just the creative, philosophical aspects of it was really appealing to me. So that really got me kind of like interested with just like painting and stuff. So from there, I kind of went and did a couple painting classes, and it just kind of lit a spark.
Awesome. So this is one of our fun questions. If your artwork were to be classified as a musical genre, what genre would it be?
Yeah, there's a few ways I could like approach this. You know, I, I like to be very deconstructive with my art. So like I like to look at things and then make into shapes. I feel like that kind of fits hip hop a little bit. Like you take like 80s, 90s, like old school hip hop, and they kind of take all the sampling and stuff, and then you put it into like one cohesive piece or something. And it's very, you know, all over the place sometimes. It's I like to think my paintings are kind of like that.
Awesome. Although I might take slight offense to the 80s and 90s being referred to as old school.
Yeah.
Makes me
I hear you on that. But the best kind of hip hop.
There you go. There you go. So could you please give us a verbal snapshot of your current work?
Yeah, I'll just kind of give you the insight of like my process a little bit. So because I do a lot of photography and video stuff, usually my paintings kind of stem off compositions of photos that I've taken. So usually I have a photo reference that I'm going off of, or maybe like a life drawing sketch or something. And I am looking at interesting shape combinations and compositions, usually on a sketch pad. And then from that, I'm trying to think of different new shapes, new compositions from there. So it's very, it's not linear process. It's very early on, very time extensive. So from what I need to have a sketch of what I want to do before I put it onto canvas. And once I have something, usually from a sketch pad to my canvas, it's usually always different too. So it's always evolving as I go along. And so from a sketch pad to making the composition onto my paint canvas, I usually get my composition down, and then I usually, once I introduce colors, that gets even more complicated because you need to have that color harmony. And it just kind of lots of thinking and contemplating and just kind of going along that process.
Cool. Okay, so if you could only use the shades and tones of just one color in your artwork for the next 3 years, what color would that be?
I think blue would be the easiest for me. I feel like blue, there's a lot of emotions I think you can play with, from like sadness and to like, you can make like more happy vibe. It's just blue is just easy to kind of manipulate.
Okay. So in regards to your art, who or what inspires you?
Okay, so I'm always kind of looking back and trying to study like some of my favorite art movements and stuff. So I'm always just kind of looking through like old modern art books and stuff. But another aspect that um, of people that inspire me would be kind of like my surroundings and being along other artists, I think kind of gives me that energy. So it doesn't need to be a visual artist. It could be like a musician. It could be like maybe even another designer, but somebody who is, you know, just kind of like associating and talking with somebody who's very passionate in what they want to do. It just kind of sparks inspiration in that.
Very cool. So what is your favorite tool in your art toolkit?
Okay, so I like to play with charcoal a lot. So something about just getting messy, like at home to just in the studio. It's really easy to get this, like, I don't know, something about just the dust on your hands. It just feels good. And then just the texture from like it being mixed in with paint. That's just another cool aspect that I like playing with charcoal and stuff.
Okay. So what's your least favorite?
Any cleaning equipment. So I usually have a sponge with me that I clean all my acrylic paints with, and it's usually all nasty at the end. I'm always going through sponges.
So then do you do natural sponges or like manufactured, I guess, sponges?
I would imagine they're the manufactured ones. I just get the cheapest ones that I find.
So what is the best piece of advice you've been given?
Okay, so I guess my the best advice that I've been given was to not kind of wait on inspiration. I think there's grinding it out to some degree, like every day, really does help with just your overall quality of whatever art you want to get into or anything, to be honest. So I try to set aside habits every day on building up just good ways to make my art better and stuff. So that's the best advice that somebody gave me. And it's, I think it pays off.
So this kind of goes back a little bit to what you were talking about earlier. Do you prefer to work solo or in collaboration with others?
Okay, and this one, it's like a little of both because like sometimes you need those moments of like silence and just kind of looking at something and just kind of like thinking on a piece. And then sometimes it's nice to have like a buddy next to you. And with me, I share a space with a good friend of mine and artist. So oftentimes we hit the studio a couple nights a week, and we're both going at it at our own different directions and stuff, giving feedback. And there's something to that too. It just kind of helps motivate you to keep on going.
That makes a lot of sense. So we're back to one of our fun questions. And, this has gotten a little bit of different answers in past interviews, but which famous artist would make a good president of the United States?
So that's a tough one because I view a lot of past artists as like psychos and like kind of like deviants. So like, could you imagine like a Picasso or like a Jackson Pollock in office? Like I probably would hate them like equally as much as like some recent presidents. But like the only thing like Matisse kind of comes to mind because I think he had like a law degree or something before he got into painting. So maybe he would be like the best fit. But
Well,
I don't know. That's where my mind kind of went. It's just like I don't want somebody like Picasso as president.
yeah, I think that would have, no, I don't think that would have worked out well. So what is your favorite meal?
I like to eat pasta a lot. I like just easy meals, just on the go. And I'm half Italian, so I usually eat like pasta like a few times a week.
And which type of art or what artist hang on the walls in your home or studio?
Okay. I have a few. I have my friend Steve Cadden's. I have a painting of his. I have Molly Thompson, a local artist who does a lot of film photography, a lot of cool experimental stuff. I have a photo of a landscaping photo of from my brother, a couple design pieces, and trying to think, I have an art poster too. So there's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you're a bit of a collector then.
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah.
So this question, you're not going to have to reach too far back, but what advice would you give your younger self?
I would say learn to fail. I feel like oftentimes people kind of get into a habit of like a repetitive, like I can do this, I'm just going to keep doing it type of mentality. And it kind of kills the joy of like the whole art process. So I feel like the more experimental you can get, as long as it's going into a good direction, I feel that that would be useful. I'd really try to think of new ways to go about things sometimes, and sometimes I'm backing up, but it's always a fun process.
Okay. I think that's good advice. I think, like you said, I think a lot nowadays they strive for perfection and everyone's a winner, and that doesn't serve you well in adulthood.
Yeah, it's just like a lot of people like they especially with like social media, it's all that instant gratification, and like people expect to be like pumping out stuff, but a lot of it's manufactured. And with like even with AI and automation now, it's just like a lot of it is just like templates. So it's hard to find like original content.
True, very true. So you alluded a little bit to this earlier, but if you could time travel backward or even forward to safely make art for a week, what date or time period or place would you choose?
Oh, this is tough. So I saw this question. I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like there's something to like all the creativity that was kind of happening in the 80s. And that was like really new on like a lot of different fronts with music and like art, like even 80s graffiti art. But something about like, I'm very into like different types of cubism too. And so something about like early on of like the early 1900s or something would be pretty cool to kind of like see with all the different type of movements happening with that. So probably in France in 1910s, 20s. So yeah.
Or the 80s?
Or the 80s.
Quite a range.
One or the other.
When you're sitting down to make art, is there anything that you have to have? So whether a certain coffee cup or your shoes tied in a certain way or what have you, do you have any certain conditions that you have to make art?
Usually I need to have a sketch of something. So I usually, like for me, if I'm on a painting, I usually have a beginning sketch, a middle sketch, and like an ending sketch too. I'm always like taking photos and like printing them out, and then trying to think of like ways to maybe like add on to a painting instead of actually just keep like just only doing paint. But usually a sketch pad is always on me, and I like loud music too. Sometimes like loud music, especially early on when I'm first going to the studio, that's helpful. But like also, usually I got to capitalize on silence too. So it's a happy medium.
Depends where you are in the process.
Yeah.
Okay. So kind of going off of that, I'm going to jumble up the order of these questions a bit. So how do you know when a work is finished?
I am extremely indecisive all the time. So to be honest, there's only a few paintings that I really think I finished that I've completed in the past. Like if I had a painting that is just kind of hanging on my studio at some point, if it's not like away from me, I'm either gonna paint over it or I'm gonna like just keep on adding to it. And like I mentioned before too, like I'll take a photo of my painting and I will think about it and meditate on it a little bit, just kind of like throughout my week or whenever I'm done with a painting. Usually I try to do like one or two paintings at a time. So if I'm like stuck on one painting, I could do another painting. But it's tough. Also, like I try to intermingle all my different mediums or styles that I do. So like if I'm doing something with a painting, maybe I'll take that same composition and then put it into my design software. And then I'll think of ways to manipulate that. And maybe it will only make sense from a design perspective if it was a specific way. But I'm usually indecisive about everything all the time.
Okay, okay. So is there a gallery that you would love to have your work featured in? And if so, or museum across the country or globe?
Yeah, so I haven't been to that many galleries. So Oliver Art Center was awesome. Like over this last winter. I consider myself a very new artist still, even though I feel like I've been doing it for like 5, 6 years. But I'd like to venture downstate a little bit more. I think that would be kind of fun to get into, or even like something like a festival like Art Prize or something.
Very cool. Okay, so this is the last question. Where can we currently find your work?
Okay, so you can find my paintings down at Studio Anatomy in Traverse City right now. And then, or on my site at appealdesign.com. But yeah, those are the Studio Anatomy is the only place right now. And that's where my studio is at too.
Okay, so talk to me about Studio Anatomy. You guys have a call for art out right now for a basement art show, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I help organize small art shows in town, and one of them is Basement Art Show. It's a free show for any artist who wants to get involved with it. But the whole point of the show is to kind of connect artists with other artists. So we have this mutual place, like I consider it like a little creative hub in Traverse City, where a lot of it is you have music, you have artists, you have all different types of stuff happening, and it's just a nice place to kind of like mingle with other people, talk about experimental stuff, and hopefully just get a lot of new artists who maybe are not comfortable with shows yet, or just really new in the whole thing, to maybe talk with other artists who aren't in that process. So yeah, it's just a fun get together.
I can attest to that. I've been there, so I really enjoy going. So then, any word on Art Bomb at all coming up?
I haven't really looked into it. Usually the planning stages for Art Bomb starts in the fall, but because of COVID and everything, a lot has changed. So I like to meet back, and news will come out usually around September. I would imagine that's when, if it starts up again, a lot of marketing stuff will be pushed out.
Great.
So I would love to do it again. It's a fun show, and I think it's great for the community. And I think people miss doing art.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do, especially in a more communal setting.
Mhm.
Luckily through the pandemic, so many places have opened up their doors virtually, but there's just something about being around art with other people, whether they're consumers or artists, that I think has been missing greatly.
Yeah, big time. And I'm glad things are kind of like slowly getting back to normal and stuff. And I had my issues with different anxieties and like wanting to do stuff. And I've been kind of silent over COVID. So I'm just kind of glad to be going back out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to do the 20 questions, all of our art centers 20 questions with us. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to share or throw out there into the ether?
No, I think this was fun. I'm glad you're doing it. I think it's, a good way to showcase different artists in the community. And, I'm a big fan of Oliver Art Center, and everyone who's watching this should go out and check them out more often.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nick.
Yeah, thank you.